that you know before the practical test. Number one is creating the tables using Microsoft Access. And the details for the table will be given to you in the test. When it says I want like 5 columns or fields, and some of them needs to be text, some of them needs to be number, some of them needs to be date or yes, no, all the details will be given to you in the paper. So just all you have to do is look at the paper and create them. The second thing is that some of the fields, they will ask you that they are going to be required. They cannot be left blank. So you need to know how to make the field required. And the final thing, you need to make sure the field size matches the settings in the paper. When it says the maximum number of letters that can fit in that field is 1 or 10 or 20 characters, you need to be able to do that as well. So this is for the first part. You need to be able to create the table, and you will be filling it with some like 5 students, and probably they will be given to you in the test as well. Okay, so let's do step number 1 before we go to step number 2. The first step in the test will be, as we said, 30 minutes. You are not given any extra time. And for that, you need to be able to do those steps very fast. We are going to use Microsoft Access. Here it is. When you open it in the test, you are going to open a blank database file. So go for this blank database file. Probably it will ask you to call it with your name and class, let's say, practical test, according to what the test wants you to save it. Also, according to test, where do you want to save it? This is going to be saved in my documents. If I want to place it on my desktop, I have to change from here and say, I want to place it on the desktop. So here it is, press create. Now, the first thing, when I don't have any more tables here, this is just table 1, the one that I'm creating right now. And I need to, when I'm finished, I need to save it according to the name, again, given to me in the test. So we already have an ID here. We need to add some columns according to the test as well. For example, first name, last name, date of birth, did they pay the fees or not, and so on. Of course, the test is not going to ask you to create the same students table that we did in class. Maybe it will tell you create customers table. Maybe it will give you a list of books for the library and will ask you to create the table for the books. Depending on the scenario given to you in the test, you need to follow. Also, I cannot change the ID, the primary key, the name for it from here. I need to switch to the design view. Okay, so also, if you want to create any column, first you have to choose the data type for the column, then choose the column name. And this will make our fields. So for starter, if I have, let's say, 5 fields, the ID, the first name, the last name, the phone, and the address, then this will be it. Okay, so I'm going to say the name, or let's say first name, and I will say last name, and I will say longer text, which is going to be the address. So longer text, address. Then we are going to have, if I want to have one for the number for the class or whatever, you can do that as well. If I have the date of birth or the join date, if it's an employee, or the release date, if it was a book, whatever, then you'll choose date, time, and so on. I want to choose one here and said paid the fees for the students, and for that we would need the yes, no. So another one, short text, and I'll call it phone number. Why did I choose the phone number to be a short text, not a number? Because if it was a number and it started with 0 on the left, like here, then if it was a number, then this 0 would have been removed. Like I'm gonna go here. Don't save it as short text, save it as a number. Yes, now I've lost the 0 that was saved here. So depending on the data type, if you feel like a number is a good match, it's okay. But if it's gonna start with a 0 on the left, that's not recommended. Now let's talk about the 2 things that you need to know for the test. Number 1, setting the maximum length or the maximum amount of information that could go here in the first name. Let's say I want people to only have 10 letters for this first name. So you will go to the field size from here and go to this and set it to 10 or 20 or 8, depending on what the test wants you. So I'm going to say 20 for the first name, and maybe only 10 for the last name. So this is the first name, and the last name, I will say that the maximum should be only 10 or 15, depending on, again, what the test wants you to do. Now, if I want to say that this field is required, what does required means? It means you cannot go and save it in the database like this and have those fields empty. So this is what requires mean. How can I say that this field is required? There are two things you could do. Number one is either go to tick this required field next to the field, the validation. So now the name is required. So I cannot save or go to the next record without filling in information here. Now I'm going to try to also make the last name required. So go ahead, say required, say yes. Now the first name is required and the last name is required as well. Okay, now let's try to add another one here. I'm gonna leave the first name blank, the last name blank, address, gonna put some information, and I'm gonna attempt to go next. Now it's gonna give me an error message saying you must enter a value in the first name field. Why? Because I set that field to be required. Okay, the ones that were saved before you cannot make changes to them, or you can, like, from here. Okay, so here you go. Now you see that the one that I was trying to save down below, it wasn't saved. Why? Because those two were required and I did not fill anything in it. So it did refuse to enter this information to the database. So this is in the validation section. If you want to say that the first name is required and the last name is required, you do it from here. You can do the same things from the design view, not from the datasheet view. But the great thing about the datasheet view is that you can do it for two things: for designing the table itself and for filling it with information at the same time. However, some of the things are harder to do from here. So let's switch to the design view. I'm gonna save it and call it students. Now I get to switch to the design view. From the design view, I can choose the name of my primary key, which I wasn't able to do or wasn't able to do easily from the datasheet view. So I'm gonna say computer ID, for example. And this is set to auto number. Auto number means that the number will be automatically generated for you. You're not going to enter it. You can still keep it the primary key. You set the primary key from here. Right click on the table, set as primary key. You can still keep it at as primary key, but you don't want it to be automatically numbered. I want to write the unique number myself. This can be done as well. Or I want it to be unique, but I don't want it to be a number. I want it to be a text or a code or a username or a serial number. You can also choose that it's a short text, which is also acceptable for the primary key. So the field size, you can put it from here. The maximum amount of letters that will go in this field, you can put from here. The required part, whether it is required or not, the fields that are not required, you will see that in required, it says no. Let's say the address, for example, here it says required, no. If I want to make it required, then you have to change that into a yes from the design view. So it is depending, again, on how the test is given to you. You can do it from the design view. You can do it from the datasheet view. It is up to you. And this is the first part in the test. The second part of the test is allowing you to create relationships. When I have two tables and those two tables are related to each other's, I need to be able to say that this table is related to this table. And for you to do that, you need to have at least two tables, because I cannot relate one table to the same table unless in a very specific case scenario. So now I'm going to create two tables, like the same example we did create in class, which is the subjects. And I'm going to create another table and call it the teachers. And I want to know which subjects is being taught by which teachers, or which teacher is teaching which subject. So very fast, we'll just draft another table. And for that, you would go to the create, because from here you cannot do anything. There is just sorting and like things. So if I want to create a new table other than the students, all I have to do is create and choose table. Then it gets me another table here. Now I'm going to start first with the subject name. we'll make this one subject code. And if I want to make this required, I'll make it required. If I want to say that the name of the subject is going to be, let's say, 10 letters max, I can do it from here, and I get to choose the name from above. Rename field, subject code. You can do the same with the primary key, by the way. Just you might forget it in the test, so it's easy to do it from the design view. So I will just go ahead and say rename, and I'll call this subject code. Yeah, the second one should be the name. The name of the field should be unique. It means you cannot use it twice. So I'm going to say subject name. And the first one, I'm going to rename it as subject code. And I'm going to say credit hours, which was a number, and classes per week. So how many classes per week do we have? And the credit hours, which is also going to be a number. Credit hours. Well, that's all I need for the subjects for now. So I'm going to save it and call it subjects. And our table is ready. Now I'm going to fill it with a couple of subjects just to make sure that my relation is working successfully, because it's important to make sure that your relationship is correct. Okay, now I'm going to say math. It's probably 6 classes per week, credit hours, maybe one, I'm not sure. English. Then it's what 6 classes per week, one. Computer studies. Okay. It's not allowing me to add anymore because the maximum field size that we set for this table is 10 for each subject. So it's very important to know that it's not going to allow you to enter more than the values that you were supposed to. Okay, now we have what, 2 classes per week. Let's say the credit hour is probably a half. Now, because this is a number, an integer number, it's not allowing me to say floating point. Anyway, just leave it the way it is. It's enough that we have 3 subjects. Each one of them, it has its own code and a subject name. If I don't like the subject code to be 1, 2, 3, and I want it to be a specific code that I put, I can go to the table fields, and this time from the subject code, I will not choose that it is auto number. I will choose it is a short text. And I will call math, for example, MT, let's say for grade 9. And I'm going to say EN, and let's say for grade 12 or whatever. Or I will call computer ICT US. So I'll just give it any unique code. It doesn't, the primary key doesn't have to be an auto number, and doesn't even have to be a number, as long as the field is unique. Now, if you try to add another one and you also call it ICT US, and you keep going to say whatever information you want, it will say it is duplicating the index value of the primary key, saving the same information to this one is not going to be allowed. So the primary key doesn't necessarily have to be a number at any case. You can just do it whatever you want, as long as it's unique. It must be unique. And of course, it must be required because it cannot be left blank. Now, that's enough for the subjects. Let's go ahead and create a very fast teachers table. So the table for the teachers, I'm just going to rename this as the teachers ID. If you want to keep it a number, it's very fine. According to the test, you need to follow the instructions in the test, but you have to be very fast doing it because, as I said, you only have 30 minutes. So teachers name, salary, another number for the years of experience, years of experience, a date time for the higher date. So higher date. I don't know if I need anything else or not. That should be enough. Her name, her salary, her years of experience, and when did we hire that teacher. Okay, now, as I said, the great thing about the data sheet view is that I can use it to create the table and fill it with information at the same time. So I'm going to start with a teacher called Dana. Her salary, let's say 2,000, years of experience, 10 years. No, just let me fill in any bogus data for a couple of teachers. Another teacher, let's say called Liza. Her salary is, let's say, 10,000, years of experience, 20. She was hired, blah, 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 blah. By the way, you can write the date yourself from here. If you don't want to pick it from the picker, that's completely fine. Okay, now I have this teacher and I have this teacher and I have no clue which subject are they teaching. So how do I create the relationship? Basically, the relationship between two tables comes from the fact that I will copy one column and place it in another column. By the way, I've already created the sheets for you and they are printed out and you will receive them tomorrow in classes. Where it is? End of term 2, 412A. Here it is. Summary sheet. So basically, when I want to create a relationship between two tables, the relationship is based on the fact that one of the columns will be copied to another table. So normally each table would have something called a primary key. Okay, so this is my primary key. And if I want to create a relationship between this table and another table, I have to take that primary key and place it in another table. Now here it is called a primary key. Here it is called a foreign key. So how do I do that? Well, we have three types of relationships. Only one of them is we're gonna cover it, which is the one-to-many. How do we create the relationships for the one-to-many? You go to the table where the many is and you add the foreign key. So in our case, if one teacher is teaching only one subject, and for me, I'm only teaching computer. For Miss Faiza Shahrayar, she's only teaching math. For Miss Anwar, maybe she's only teaching Arabic. So there is only one subject that you are teaching. However, in the Arabic department, you have 9 teachers. In the computer department, you have 4 teachers teaching computer. In the math department, you have 7 teachers teaching math. So the relationship between the teachers and the subjects is one-to-many. Okay? Each teacher is teaching one subject, so this is one-to-one, but one subject is being taught by many teachers. So who's the many? It is the teachers. So you need to go to the teachers table and you are going to create the relationship by copying the primary key of the subjects and placing it here. So I'm going to add a table and I'm going to add to this table here. The column will be the same as the primary key of the subjects. What is the primary key of the subject? Is a subject code. The same doesn't mean the same name. You can just call it whatever you want. I can go here in the teachers and then call it subjects. I don't have to call it subject code. I can call it whatever you want. I just can call it subject and that's enough. So what did I meant? It has to be the same. It has to be the same kind of data type. يعني you cannot make one of them as a number and the other one you should make it as a text. It's not gonna work. The 2 columns must be the same data type. يعني here I chose it is a short text. If I tried, and I'm gonna make this mistake now. If I try to make this as a number, this subject as a number from here, table fields, it's a number. If I try to create the relationship, it's not gonna allow me. Let's see how can we create the relationship. Now, when you go, number 1, either go to the tables, the teacher's table, and go to the table itself. You'll find here something called relationships. You can do it from here, or go outside, close every table, like close this one, go to create, and you will find from the database tools here something called relationships. Both of them are able to do the relationship for you. So here in my database, I don't have any kind of relationships so far. And on the right, I have the students table, I have the subjects table, I have the teachers table. There are two things you can do to create the relationship. Either double click on the table and it's gonna appear here, or click on the table, drag it and drop it. Again, the two things are acceptable. So when you have the two tables lying in front of you and you wanna say that this subject code is the same as this subject field. So you go to the primary key, click on it, drag, drop. Now it is asking you, is the subject code as the same as the subject and this is a one-to-many relationship? Let's say you wanted to say create. First, the first thing here, that the relationship is wrong. If the relationship is correct, you should be able to see a one-to-many thing lying here. Okay, and also let's just close this, go back to the tables. First, fix the subject to be a short text. Says close the relationships first because you cannot make any changes. Now go to the subjects first, fix that mistake, go to the table fields, say it's gonna be a short text. Okay, short text here. Well, it did not save the relationship. It says you need to delete the relationship first. Okay, so go again here, fix this. This is gonna be a short text, similar to the kind that you have in the other one. In the database, most of the time it won't allow you to save if you have the other window open. I already deleted the relationship. I close everything from here. Database tools, create. Relationship. Says remove the tables from here. Okay. Teachers, subject. Make a change to the table fields. Short text. Now it's gonna allow you, save your table, close everything up. Now go back to the relationship, take the teachers again and the subjects. Now this time, when you drag the subject code and throw it here, you have to choose the correct column. Yes, the subject is the same as the subject code. One of the main things that will make this part wrong in the test, or you're gonna lose the mark if you don't tick the enforce relational integrity. What does enforce relational integrity means? It means, can I or am I allowed to put any irrelevant thing in my fields or not? Now let's make another mistake and I'll create the relationship. In the test, if you see the relationship looking like this, just know that you did something wrong, because the correct way is for you to have a one-to-many thing in your relationship. When you do enforce relational integrity, you see now you have one-to-many relationship. Now let's say I made a mistake in the test and it's not showing me the one-to-many. Double click on, you have to select it, double click on it, and let's say you didn't do this. Now it's gonna show you blank like this. Now I'm gonna save the relationship and show you what's the problem here. Now I have the subjects, I have 3 subjects, and I have the teachers. Now if I go to Miss Dina and say she's teaching subjects called ICT UKY, okay? Well, I don't have a subject that exists in my subject table with that code. Now this is the mistake you made. I don't have a subject here called ICT blah, blah, blah. I only have ICT US. I don't have, maybe I'll have a subject and I'll say 1, 2, 3. Well, it is allowing me to save normally. And it's not even checking here in the subjects table, does this exist or not? This is because of the mistake that you made here. So when you go enforce relational integrity, it means that the information that you have to put must be looked up in the other table to see that this column exists or not. Yeah, you're opening the tables here. Okay, now I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna delete this because this is wrong, and I'm gonna close everything here. And I'll fix my relationship. Tick enforce relational integrity, relational integrity. You're gonna see one too many. Save your work, close the relationships. Now let's go back to the teachers, and let's say that Miss Dina is teaching 1 to 3. No, it's not gonna allow me. Why? Because there is no such thing in the other table called 1 to 3. Now, if I say she's teaching ICT 12 and go, it is gonna, let's just check the subjects again. I have, yeah, ICT US. Not 12, ICT US. Now it allows me to save. If I invent or come up with something that doesn't exist in the other table, it's not going to allow me. To make sure that your relationship is successful, is correct, when you open one of the subjects, let's say ICT 12, I will be able to see that Miss Dina is teaching this subject. I'm going to be able to see the related columns and tables and like information from the other related one underneath it. So this one is related to this one. Okay, so this is it for the second part, is the relationships. We've covered it, covered all the mistakes you can do in this field. The final part, the last part, is creating forms. So the exam will be like 3 parts. Last part is creating forms. What are forms? What are they used for? What will I benefit from creating a form? Simply, when you go to register on a website, do they allow you to just go to the database and enter whatever you want? No. They give you a registration form and you fill it with the information goes straight to the database. What if I don't want people to see like all the information from the students table? I don't want them to see the information from the teacher's table and scroll to the very end, see everything they were supposed to and not supposed to enter information. I don't want to do that. So what will I do? I'll create a form for them. And it's also easier for them to use. So let's say the administration or the help desk is going to enter the student's information in that table. So what will I do? I'm going to press on create, but this time I'm not going to create a table. I'm going to create a form. We only covered in class how to create a form using the wizard. We didn't cover anything else. So now I'm going to click form from a wizard and it's going to ask me first question, what is the table that you want to work with? Are you going to work with the subjects? Are you going to work with the students? Are you going to work with the teachers? I want to work with the students table. What kind of fields do you want to include in that form? Maybe I don't want them to see the computer ID, or maybe I don't want them to see did they pay the fees or not. This is another department that works with the fees. For me, I'm just registering a new student based on a form they filled with their names and informations and grades and classes and address and phones. I have nothing to do with the fees, so I don't want to include it. So I want to include the student first name, the student's last name, the address, and their phone number. Anything else, I don't want to see it in my form. Next, it says, how do you want your form to look like? Do you want it to look like a column? Do you want it to look like a table? Do you want it to look like the data sheet? For me, I like to work with Justified because this is the closest thing the form looks like to the user. By the way, you can just have a blank form and you can design it from scratch, placing whatever you want on it. So I'm going to choose Justified and I'm going to press next. And it says, what do you want to call it? I want to call it add new student. This is the title to my form. Do you want to open it or do you want to modify the design? Just open it and let me see, finish. Now the form is directly created for me. This is how the form looks like. And you have a navigation bar down there if you want to see more information. if I want to see the next student. And anything here is customizable. You can put the logo, you can change the colors of the fonts, you can place your labels differently. And also, when you press new, like I want to add a new student, you get blank fields. So you can fill them up with the first name, with the last name, with the address, with the phone number. The moment you hit save, the information goes directly to the database. Let's give it a try. Here is the teachers. Here are the students. We had only one student. I'm gonna add another one. So let's, since only Dunya is here, we're gonna add Dunya Khalid. So first name, Dunya. Last name, Khalid. Address, phone number. Let's just give any bogus phone number. Now I wanna save that information. Either press new to go right away to insert a new student, or just press save, like Control S. The computer ID is required and I didn't enter it. Okay, I can just modify my form design. And I can add, now when you modify the form design, you can add whatever you want. You can add a field to the form. You can add a logo to your company. You can add the date and the time showing on the screen. You can insert images where you put logos or watermarks. You can put more items like buttons and pictures and links and so on. And all this goes back to reflect on your form design. Okay, now the first thing I realized that I made a mistake and I need to include the computer ID. I just thought it's auto number. Now add existing field. It says, which one do you want to add? I want to add the computer ID. Voila, it's already added for me. Switch back to the form view. You should see it here. Now it's overlapping with another field. All I have to do is just place it the way I want to. So this is the computer ID and here it is. Okay, switch back to the form view. It looks good now. Okay, now if I want to add another student, computer ID, I will enter it since it's now no longer a an auto number, 11131215, blah, blah, blah. Now press save. Let's see if actually the student was added to the students table or not. Now here is Dunya. So this is the purpose of a form. I don't want people to work with the database. I don't want them to see anything or change anything. Just want to provide them with a nice way. And of course, it can get nicer. I'm going to show you how to add the buttons, how to add pictures, how to add logos, how to customize it and make it look good. Like I want to add a save button here, or by default, I want the form to be blank, or I want to add a picture or a logo here. All this I can do. Now let's go switch back to the design view. Let's see if we can make it look a little bit better. So let's say I want to add a logo. And I think I had the school's logo somewhere here on the desktop. Maybe in the document. Nope. Downloads. Let me just save it from one of the tests that we have already conducted. Here it is, the makeup quiz for grade 7. I'm just gonna save the school's logo or Ma'arif logo, whatever. Save it as a picture. Desktop. Here we go. Now, what if I want to include the logo for my company somewhere here? or want to put it on the right, want to put it on the left. Can also do that. Here it is. Now, when I switch back to the form view, there I get the logo of my company. This is something that you can also do. You can put other pictures if you want to. If I wanna, let's say, have a button here and call it save, or a button and call it new. And by the way, I can navigate to see students, like this is now Dina, next, I can see Donia, next, I can see whatever I want. So I can do this best adding buttons to the form. I'll only do one for new and save, and we're not going to take any more things. This is everything that we've covered in class. Now, how do I add a button to my form? Go to the design view, and those are the things you can add: images, logos, date and time, as I said, fields. Now, I want to add a button, so you just press down here, look where the button is. This is where it is. Press on it, go to the form, to the place where you put the button. For example, I want to put the save here, then click on it. Now it's going to say, what kind of action do you want the button to do? Something related to the form itself, يعني take me to another form, for example, or open something for me, or something related to the record itself, يعني saving it to the database, or deleting the record. Like, for example, I want to delete Dina, or I want to delete Dunya. So I want to have a button called delete. So when I select the student or search for the student I want to press delete. I want it to be removed from the database. So those are called record operation. Okay, record navigation means take me back and forth like the navigation bar down below. So navigation will say, find the next one, find the record matching specific search criteria, go to the first one, go to the last one, next, previous, and so on. Record operation, insert, delete, modify or save, undo a change, or print it out even if you want to. Form operation, like open another form or search for specific information. We're just going to focus on changes that you can make to the database. So I'm going to say, it's going to do a record operation for me, and it's going to save my work. So I'm going to say save. Next, it says, do you want the button to have a text on it, like save? Or do you want the button to have a picture on it? We'll do one with a picture and do one with a text. So here it is. Finish. Now the button is here. Now this time, if Dana didn't have an address, and or she changed her phone number, now she lives in. If I press save and I go to the database, it was saved. So this is what the button can do for me. Another one will just go to the design again. Last one, go to the design. And this time I'm going to add a button next to it. And I can choose that it's going to delete a student for me. So I'm going to go for record operation and say delete, or save, or new, whatever operation that you want. Do you want it to have an X, like a delete icon, or any other icon of your choice? Or do you want it to have the text on it? And I'm gonna have a text on it, and I will say delete student. Next. Finish. Now here's the button. So either the button would have a text on it, like login, register, sign up, or it would have an icon. Now I want to delete Dina. So I'm gonna press on delete. By the way, you can navigate using the navigation that you have down here to locate the person that you want, or you can again have buttons for that. So I will go to Dina, press delete student. It says, do you want to delete it? This operation is not reversible, like it's just going to be deleted forever. So I'm going to say yes. Now I have Dunya, and I only have Dunya. If I go next, there is no one. Let's go back to the students, see if Dina exists. Doesn't exist. Refresh, it says deleted, 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 refresh. Khalas, she's completely gone. So that's it. Buttons, forms, and everything. These are all the skills that you are going to get in the test. Try your best to practice if you have Microsoft Access at home. Even if you had to like go in the break to the computer lab to practice, it's up to you. But from the next classes tomorrow, we are doing the queries, and that's a worksheet. We're not gonna even do it in the lab. So you have to practice before the test according to the schedule I sent you. You can go to install Access because it comes, as I said, with the Office package for you to practice on. Okay? After you watch the video and try to practice, if there is any of those skills that you don't know how to do, just text me or like send me on the group and I will answer your questions. Dunya, do you have any question? Are you like confused about anything?
No, thank you, Miss.
Okay. Thank you, dear. You can go. Just stop the recording.